On a ranch, the alarm clock goes off 2 o'clock, it's 2:30 every time. Got to get up, make bread. Folks, if I'd have knew this recipe existed, I could have slept 2 more hours. 2 ingredient biscuits and no rise time. Easiest biscuits in the world. 2 ingredient biscuits.
Which this blows my mind.
It does, and they're so good and they're so easy. Anybody can do them. Even the Big has made them a time or two. And right now he looks pretty tired because he's been making biscuits. But you know, on a ranch, it's really the first thing we did after we got a fire going and coffee on was make bread. But it was always something that had 4, 5, 6 different ingredients because you'd have flour, you might have milk, you might have sourdough starter, salt, baking powder. Who is the star of the player today? Self-rising flour. Self-rising flour was invented back in the 1840s. So hey, it is pretty simple and easy to do. Remember, when you're using self-rising flour, you don't have to add no baking powder, no salt, nothing like that. Whipped cream and flour. That's all that's in these biscuits. Now, if you're doing this in the house, go ahead and preheat that oven to about 400 degrees. And if you're going to cook biscuits in the house, please cook them in a cast iron skillet. They're not just for frying with, they are great to cook biscuits, cornbread, stuff like that in. So get that oven preheated. If you're outside like we are, you better have you some coals because we're going to throw them in a Dutch oven. We are. 2 cups self-rising flour. Don't pack it, just get it in there. Shake the loose off the top, get you a knife, whatever you need to do to scrape it. We need to sift it. What does sifting do to flour? As Grandma would say years ago, it'd get the weevils out and the mice peels, but it's going to make them more light, more airy, and more fluffy. 2 ingredient biscuits, we're talking about 1.5 cups of heavy cream.
Now, what would happen if you used milk?
Well, if you use milk, number one, you're not getting the butter fat content that's in cream.
Oh.
You need this in there, one, to get that consistency that's really rich from the butter and the cream, but you're getting that fatty in there too, which is going to really make it a more moist, light, and fluffy. We're just going to get them mixed up here, get them onto a cutting board, knead them a little. Get you a little flour on your hands. Let's get it back into sort of a ball stage. Now, I want this to be a little sticky because one thing I learned from making bread so long ago from my mother and my grandmother, a dry biscuit is not worth much. So we're going to keep just mashing this over a little, flatten it out, pull it back over here. And it ain't like we're going to knead it for 15 or 20 minutes like some pizza dough. We're about through, folks. So when you get this together, and you can see it's not sticking to my hands, but when you pull it apart here, it'll sure still stick to them on the inside of this. Watch this, this is going to be really good, okay?
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Did you get that?
Yeah.
Okay. So.
But that wasn't a good camera clap. I need like 2 solid claps.
Okay.
Try it again. Good. Oh, oh.
We won't show that one. So get it here on your floured board. You can mash it, you can use a rolling pin, whatever you want. Big, what do you think? What is the thickness of them biscuits? Can you tell me? Let me get her down there where you see it. Thickness, Big says they're pretty close to 1/2 inch. Bacon grease. We want to get that really good crust on the bottom of them biscuits. You can do that with butter, but I prefer it to be bacon grease. Going to add a little more flavor to it. Rub it around in the bottom, on the edges a little. We're getting about 8 to 10 biscuits. These will double more in size when you cook them, so take this biscuit cutter. Long time ago on a ranch, people told me, do not twist the biscuit. Why is that, Shin?
Because it seals the dough and won't let it rise as much.
That is true. So just take the biscuit mage and just cut it, get it out there, keep you some flour handy on this. Then I want you to gather that dough back up. I don't want you to work it anymore. I just need to get it to where we can cut some more biscuits out of there. So there's another. And don't crowd them too much in here. We want to give them room to grow this away and that away. Unlike a sourdough biscuit, if you don't hem him up, he'll run everywhere. But these, they'll stay in that shape. And I will tell you this, you can make these biscuits like this, put them on a piece of wax paper on a sheet pan, freeze them individually, bring them out, cook them. Just going to take you a little longer to cook them when you get them in the oven, but you know, you've heard of basting biscuits or bread with butter. We're going to baste them with some more whipped cream. It's going to give them more of a browning effect there, pretty close to, but you're getting some of that moisture off this butter that's in this cream. I'll meet y'all over here at the hot coals. Y'all have seen me cook something in a Dutch oven many times, but bread was the first thing I ever cooked in a Dutch oven. Now when you go to cooking bread and you say you're reading a recipe, preheat your oven. Do not preheat a Dutch oven to cook bread in it. You can pre-warm it, but don't preheat it, because a lot of times them biscuits will burn halfway before you even get finished because you got the skillet, the oven too hot, you do. We're going to set it on a tall trivet, which is about 5 inches high. Coals around the outside edge of the trivet, which is really in line with the outside edge of the Dutch oven. Coals pretty light to medium today. There's not much breeze, but also loaded up pretty heavy on top, because remember, in the house we're cooking these at 400 degrees, and it's going to take you about 15 to 18 minutes. Put the lid on them, let's get to cooking, because if you looking, you ain't cooking. A lot of times if I was cooking biscuits, you know what it'd be? It'd be dark. I mean pitch dark, because breakfast on a ranch is usually between 4 and 5. Cowboys are stirring around looking for that coffee pot, and you can always see them coming. Everybody get them a cup. We visit about what's going to happen that day. Mostly it's about, is the weather going to rain, going to blow? Most of the time it's going to blow. This is really how a morning starts on a ranch. Even back when I was guiding elk hunters in the Gila Wilderness so many years ago, this is where it started. Fire, coffee, and biscuits. You know, old Cookie going down the trail, and when I say the word Cookie, I've got so many comments from folks. Who was Cookie? Cookie was the man that was the cook on the chuck wagon. You know, there was Cusinero, there was Cookie, there was Dough Puncher, I've heard him called a dough roller, there was the biscuit man, coffee man. He was a barber, a dentist, a cook. He was all them things, even a psychologist. There was a meeting place at this wagon. Back then it was just twice a day. It's all the meals they're going to get. Breakfast, supper. What was it? A lot of times beans, coffee, and biscuit. Same thing for supper. Today we have the same mechanism that old Cookie worked with going down the trail, and that's a Dutch oven, using the same methods that he used to cook it with. We've just got a whole lot more to work with. But I really think that a lot of his staple was baking powder biscuits and sourdough biscuits. But a lot of times in cold weather, you know, sourdough starter works best at temperatures above 70 degrees. Well, that starter a lot of times was kept in a little old leather flask, or maybe a buffalo hide flask that was kept warm to his body. He would sleep with it at night to keep it active. But also, he made a lot of just baking powder biscuits. Did you need some gravy with them? Probably you did. But you know, you'd hear them old cowboys, I'd hear them talk a long time ago, them biscuits was so dry and hard you'd kill a crow at 40 yards with them. And that's something that always stuck with me, because you really want to make that biscuit as light and fluffy as possible. You know, as we did some research a long time ago for our cookbook, we looked back on grocery lists that old Cookie would put together for, you know, a long trail drive from, say, South Texas, you know, down there in San Antonio, all the way to Abilene, Kansas, to hit the railhead or even further. And there was a lot of flour. Never once did I see it mentioned there was self-rising flour, but he'd have baking powder, he'd have salt. So he was making bread or pies, something like that, probably every day. As you're cooking along with these biscuits, remember there's no temperature dial on a Dutch oven. So rotation really is your best friend ever, and coal management. So rotate the lid one way, the bottom the other way, and you're even out any hot spots you might have from too many coals in one side or the other. But also remember too, a lot of times that bottom's going to get done before that top does. So we're going to check that periodically to make sure we ain't burning them biscuits, because if people tell me all the time, I ain't never burned a biscuit, I'll say you ain't cooked long enough or it'll happen. Ain't them some pretty biscuits? I mean, them might be some of the prettiest biscuits.
You know, I'm impressed how
Look at
high they rise.
Yeah, and they're so light and airy and fluffy. I mean, I'm gonna let this cool just a minute. Them are still pretty hot, but as we was cooking along, I thought I was pretty close to getting them done, but I checked them. They were still just a little doughy in the middle. You could sort of feel that sort of squeeze there. So I had to add me some more heat around the bottom. Didn't need any on the top. In fact, we pulled some of it back off away from the lid there a little, but right before I plumb finished, I give them a little basting with butter, and we was good to go. So this one that I pulled a half first, I mean, that one's, you've seen that melted butter on that one, and I'm gonna let the big have a bite of that one in a minute. But folks, I judge a biscuit by, first of all, it's not crumbling and falling apart, okay? That's number one thing. And you can feel it, and it's just a moist, light biscuit. Star of the show, whipped cream.
I mean, this is one of the recipes that's really amazed me.
You know, I've made a lot of biscuits of every kind, from sourdough to buttermilk to baking powder to butter biscuits. And I think I do like the taste of these because, you know them, I think they're Grand's biscuits you buy individually that are frozen. To me, these taste a little bit better than them, but pretty similar to them. So, and I can remember a lot of times when we'd be making a lot of bread, if there's some left over, you'd go bury it on ranches. I don't know if it ever grew a biscuit tree, but thank you, my friend, for always being there. Do we have a schnauzer? There he is. You like a butter biscuit, Lou?
Lou's under the wagon.
Lou, get up from there. Come on. Duker, how about a butter biscuit?
And you got two in the bushes behind you.
Cletus, y'all coming? Come on. Cletus, come on. And if I throw it, I guarantee you this here will beat you to it. I knew it. I told you, Cletus. Smooth as butter. So good it is. Well, it is with great pride, honor, and privilege that I tip my hat to all the servicemen and women and all the veterans that have kept that old flag flying over camp. No matter where we are and no matter where they are, we commend you all. We do. I hope y'all sure enjoyed going back in history with us and maybe resaddling up an old classic here, because whipped cream biscuits, 2 ingredients, don't get no better than that, they don't. Be sure and check out the website. We're going to be at Wagons for Warriors, Lebanon, Missouri, Memorial Day weekend. Hey, you can come up there, you can see probably 26, 27 different wagons. It's a great cause. We'd love to see you there. Well, folks, I need you to know, first of all, that I get a lot of comments say, hey, Ken, I'm really having a hard time. I'm really struggling. I'm gonna tell you, folks, don't ever give up. You know, it's, as my dad would say when he was going through cancer, it ain't no step for a stepper. And you always make a difference in someone's life, because y'all are watching me and Shan channel here on YouTube, and you make a difference to us. You're a family, and that's what it's all about. You know, whether it's a handshake or a smile, you're making a difference to someone, and you're sure making a difference to us. Let me get in here and give you a great big old hug. God bless you, each and every one, and I'll see you down the 2 ingredient biscuit trail. And I think we ought to get started because I have my biscuit attendees in camp today.
What do you keep looking at?
That little biscuit man right there.
There's one over there too.
Yeah, I don't know where the rest of them at. Okay.
Okay, just pick up, we're good?
Well, it's got a lot of color to it now.
It's got a lot of what?
Color to it. We won't show the bottom half, okay? How many of you got a biscuit cutter? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Everybody's claiming they got a biscuit cutter.